1992. 1992 is, for me, one of those years that has quite a lot of mixed reactions, mixed feelings. It's a year where the tides were quite very high, but also very low in our family. And I remember we were living, when we moved to Zambia, we lived in the Italian quarters. The Italian quarters were, let me call it, yeah, they were the middle, you would call them like the middle class. So you had the upper section, which was the flats where you had officers. Then you had the Italian quarters, which was like the mid section. You had the dog section. And then the rest, lived down. I remember 92, I don't know what happened. My young brother, I think one of my young brothers, was playing at a neighbor's house and he got beaten. But you should remember that living in the barracks, it was such a big village, so raising kids was not really like up to one family. It was really an entire community, responsibility. So when you did something wrong, you got punished wherever you were. And I remember clearly that my brother got beaten by one of our neighbors. And he was not really punished, but he was really thoroughly beaten. And when he got back home, my dad got angry. My dad used to enjoy his bottle. He loved his waraji. So he got very angry. And him having been a boxer, decided to go and see this man, this neighbor of ours. And there was a fight. So my dad beat this guy up. I think he broke one of the kids. I think he broke one of the kids' toys, and also, hurt the other man. It was not good, of course, as a kid to see, but of course that had consequences. So I remember because of that, we had to be punished as a family. So in the Italian quarters, we had a house where we had 2 rooms, like a bedroom, a living room, and then a small kitchen, really like a small kitchen. And that was for us luxury, And because of what my dad had done, we got kind of demoted, like from a better housing unit to a much more, terrible situation. So where we were moved was a block with almost 20 families, and we all lived in one room. So each family had one room, like one small room. So imagine coming from a house with 2 rooms and now coming to a house with 1 room. And we had to fit in. And that really pissed off my mother. I remember very well. My mother was not happy with my dad because of what had happened. It was a very silly incident. My mother was pregnant, and here we were pushed to a small house. Very tiny space. How we slept, how we lived, I don't remember. But I know that we didn't really spend much time in the house. So when it came to sleeping, we kind of we slept over each other. So some people slept under the table, I think my brother slept a lot of times seated. And then the little kids, some of them were pushed under the chair. So space for us was never a problem. So we just adopted to that. And that was the time as well. I remember when I felt like I would become a chef, or I was a chef. So Sheraton Hotel, there used to be those cooking shows, and there was a guy who was cooking, and it was on TV. Though we were watching black and white. And my mom used to send me to the market to buy curry powder, and that was called Simba. So one day I went and bought the powder, came back home, and I said, and we used to cook in turns. So sometimes my sisters would be cooking in the day, and then we could do dinner. So I said to my sisters, today I'm going to do the dinner. And so I got the Simba curry powder and started cooking the beans. So remember, it was then we only still had a meal because yeah, it was still luxury. Um, so we made that meal. I put the, I poured the whole container of curry powder in the beans, cooked it, and then when that whole soup got a bit, you know, yellowish and smelly, I was like, yeah, now I've become a Sheraton chef. Man, that meal, nobody ate it. I'm the only one who ate that meal because there was just too much curry powder in the sauce. So from that day on, they kept teasing me, my siblings, saying, hey, Sheraton, Sheraton. So I hated the kitchen after that. But at the same time, that year was when my brother, Chris Cross, was born. So that day when my mom was about to go into labor, I decided to stay home because I was really eager. I was very eager to see this kid, this little baby. We had seen the others getting born, but this one was like the last born. At that point, we said, this is the last born, so I must see him. Still going to police children's school, that day I affect my sickness and I said, I'm not going to go to school. I need to see this baby born, you know. So when it was due, it was around 10 a.m. My mom was taken to the maternity ward. In the barracks, there was a small clinic and there was a maternity ward. So my mom was taken there. And yeah, we got news that my brother had been born. So I rushed there, saw him. I was so happy, carried him. And that moment I will never forget. It was a very special moment to carry your brother in your hands, you know. I was, I think, 9, 10 years, and seeing this boy in my hands was one of the most beautiful things, you know, that happened to me in that time. But soon after that incident, while still staying again in the same location, I remember the year coming to an end. So 1998, no, 1992, 90, I think 92, 91, I'm not very sure. In that year was the first time we kind of, you know, celebrated the new year. You know, all the other events that happened, we didn't know what a new year was. We just heard people saying Happy New Year, and you just also said Happy New Year, Happy New Year. So we didn't understand what a Happy New Year meant. So I remember in that that was the time. During that time, policemen used to stay with guns, so they could stay with guns in their houses. And I don't know what really got into these guys' heads. That night of the new year, I think 92 to 93, suddenly people started cocking guns. And we were like, okay, what's going to happen? And when the countdown started going, from 10, 9, 3, 9, 8, 7, 8, by the time it got to 1, these guys started opening fire. You know, of course, shooting in the air. It was everywhere, well, at least where we were staying. People were shooting. I think the shooting went on like for 10 minutes. And we were like, wow. For anybody at that time, we thought there was war. And it was very nice to see how much people looked forward to a new year. So that new year was crazy. But the effect that came with it was again, another one. Because I remember the next morning, I think all the policemen were summoned to the guard room for inspection. And whoever had less bullets in his magazine was put behind bars. So yeah, my father, having had a gun at home, was also put behind bars. And that marked the end of 92. Very terrible, also very exciting year for me.